Hello, welcome. In this video I'm going to give a hopefully quick and succinct overlay on how to get your custom VRoid style model right here into VRChat. Here's an example. This is not the one I used in the tutorial, this is my normal one, but the one I used in the tutorial would work just the same as this one. Although my normal one, I chose this one rather than the one I actually made in the tutorial so that I could show you a couple more features just to see what all kind of things you could do. So if I go over to my expressions, you can see I have an option for a couple of different things. So I could change out these glasses for aviators. Nice. I've also got an option to turn my head around and for a mustache. These are all options that I use on stream occasionally, just to mess around with my model. And I went ahead and included them here in VRChat. I wanted to show you that you can do a lot more beyond, obviously, what I'm going to be showing in this quick tutorial. I didn't really show how to do anything other than tail control, although I don't have a tail. There is a quick little show of that in the video. I can show you that, although I noticed going back later that model is a little messed up. In fact, you know what? I'll go ahead and show you those. Let me just go avatars. This is the one that's got tail control. And for whatever reason, this eye is blank. That's really fucking weird. But the tail's there. And you can go to tail control and control it freely. I'm not sure why this eye is blank. It's not meant to be. It's meant to be yellow. Go back to the old version of this model. This is the non-well optimized one that takes a minute to load. And see, the eyes are supposed to be yellow, not invisible. I don't know why that one was invisible, but you can see the tail here just free floats. It's not actually controllable. That was, original version of this model didn't have that. Also has quite a bad arm problem, but whatever. So anyway, this tutorial is going to very quickly take you through having a VRM model all the way through to having it right here in VRChat. So here we go. First things first, you're going to need a list of things. You're going to need a very specific version of Blender. You're going to need the CATS plugin. The reason you need a very specific version of Blender is because the CATS plugin only works on a specific version of Blender. You're going to need a VRM exporter, importer to Blender. I'm sure there's multiple different ones, but I will go ahead and include in the description with all the download links the version that I'm using in this video. You're going to need Unity with a very specific version. Again, that'll also be covered, and it should be on screen somewhere right here. You're going to need the VRChat companion. Links and everything down below. List somewhere on the video. I'm not sure where. And obviously you're going to need VRoid Studio if you're going to make a VRoid model. That's just about it. Everything else can be handled with built-in things. So somewhere here is the list of things you need. Down in the description is going to be the links to download all of them. And without further ado, here we go. Alright, so our journey begins here in VRoid Studio. The first thing we want to do is get the model ready for export. So go ahead and open up your model if you haven't already, obviously. Then you want to go to Outfit, find anything you have that's going to have skin hidden behind it. Obviously, if you're wearing like a skirt, you can't really hide your legs all that much. But for a hoodie, t-shirt, jacket, that kind of thing, edit the texture. It was that button in the top right corner. I skipped right through that. Then skin mask. And the way this works is anything that's painted white will be shown, anything that's painted black will be invisible. So if I just make some lines on the legs, you can see they go invisible. And you can either paint on this side or directly on the model. So set it to black, give yourself some brush width, and just begin painting on the model to hide the skin underneath it. Get it as close as you can to the edges without, accidentally getting something that would be shown. When you're painting on the shoulder and neck area, keep an eye on the box on the right, because sometimes it will auto-generate based on where you click, and it will accidentally fill in this area, which is the palms of the hands, or the back of the hands in general. And you don't want your hands to go invisible. Usually it'll just be a tiny little line that appears right in the center of the palm, but just make sure that area is white when you get done painting. Then save your item. You can do that for the shirt, pants if you're wearing pants, shoes, socks, anything like that. And when you're ready to move on, just export as VRM. Under reduced polygons, make sure delete transparent meshes is checked, and go ahead and leave smoothing all on 0. We'll take care of that in Blender. Under reduced materials, you can combine the hair mesh if you'd like. Makes it a little easier, but more importantly, leave materials and texture quality as default. We'll take care of that also. And you don't have to worry about reducing bones. We'll also take care of a little extra bone if we need to. Then export. Believe 0 or 1 will work. I've only ever really worked with VRM 0, so that's what I'm going to continue as here. But fill in your information and export your model. And save it somewhere, and we're ready to move on to Blender. Okay, over in Blender, if you haven't already got the plugins installed, you can go to Edit, Preferences, Add-ons, Install, and just select the zip files as they are when you download them. You don't have to unpack them or anything. Then go through and make sure Cats is checked and VRM format is checked, and you're good to go. We'll go ahead and A and delete to clear out everything from the scene. You can also go ahead and delete this extra hierarchy if you need it. There's no point in having it there. Then you can go File, Import, VRM. Select your file. Go ahead and leave everything the way it is and import. Alright, so then controls on Blender, middle mouse, kind of zoom, orbits around. Orbits is a good word. Middle mouse zooms. Right click will open your context menu. Left click will select things. Shift and middle mouse will allow you to pan around. Now to get to the Cats plugin, that's where all the magic's going to happen. Go ahead and click this little arrow, pull out your tools window, go to Cats. First thing you want to do, make sure you, in the wrench, disable combine same materials, as that can often cause things to go invisible. Then start by clicking Fix Model. It'll think about it for a bit, and it'll automatically change a lot of the bones. So the armature will get the proper names, and the body mesh will be renamed body. To get started getting things set up, first thing we want to do is go to Start Pose Mode. Up at the top, right beside this little butterfly, go ahead and click the X. Click on the bones for your legs, the thighs area specifically. Go ahead and spread the legs just a little tiny bit, maybe not even that relax, and apply as rest pose. That'll stop VRChat from automatically making your knees sort of go in. And if you find when you get to VRChat, just standing normally, your knees tend to go in what the community typically refers to as the PP looking pose. Just come back, spread the legs out a little more. Next up, we want to fix the feet, so go up here to edit mode, grab the ankle, and you can go ahead and make sure that same symmetry mode is checked. Grab the move tool and just go ahead and move the heels to wherever the heel on the foot's going to be. Go ahead and straighten out the bottom of the feet. And point your toes up a little bit. We also want to grab the collarbone by the inner ball and go ahead and make that roughly about half the size it originally was. And this is the part where we can reduce bones if you would like. So hair, typically things like the jacket, skirts, or t-shirts will add a lot of different bones along to make things animated. And you might want to keep the animations, you might not. Reducing the amount of bones, I don't know exactly what the bone limit is, but my model's got 70, and that's still considered good. If you do want to go ahead and reduce the amount of bones, pick the bone you want to get rid of. We'll say that one, for example. Don't just delete it, but come up here under Model Options and merge bones to parent. That'll go ahead and keep the weights on the actual mesh itself and also get rid of that bone at the same time. If you want to streamline the process, maybe you've got to the end and found that your model has too many bones and it's not quite as optimized as you'd like, you can come in and just play with pose mode, move things around, and determine where you want move points to be. Make sure you stop pose mode before you edit things again. But you can decide to, cut out a little bit of the different hair, bones, anything where you don't particularly want a moving joint to be. If there is any bones you want to go ahead and get rid of, we'll go ahead and do that now and pick back up afterward. We'll also go ahead and keep in mind that certain outfits are going to have more bones than others. So for example, the hoodie itself has got a bone just for the little string, and also one just for the hood. So those are things you may or may not want animated as well. Alright, once you're happy with your bones, we will go ahead down to eye tracking. Make sure your head bone, eye bones are all checked. Anything that you don't have a specific bone for, you can go ahead and leave the way it was. And we'll go ahead and create eye tracking. We'll do the same with the visemes here. So you have mouth A for the ah sound. You have a mouth O for the O sound. And we don't specifically have a ch sound, but I typically go with I. That seems to look alright. And you can also play with the shape key intensity if you want your mouth to move more dramatically for your specific sounds, but we'll go ahead with those and create visemes for that. And once you're done with that section. You can also come up here and hide the armature so that you can see the model easier. Next step is to reduce the amount of polys. You can right click and click Scene Statistics if you'd like to specifically see the amount of polys down here in the bottom. You can go ahead and separate the mesh by materials. Anyway, so we've got our model separated out by the different materials. If you have any empty materials, like this one piece layer just has these tiny little dots of invisibility, you can go ahead and delete those completely. Then you're going to want to choose, I like to start from the bottom. It's easier to work my way up, just personal preference. Start here, go down to the wrench icon. I don't know if my head's not on. Add modifier, decimate. Ratio of 1 will be completely undecimated. Ratio of 0 will be completely decimated. Just find that spot where you can slide it down and not see any specific blaring tears. And that if you have a graphic, the graphic still looks nice. As you can see here, if I go too low, you can see a gap form underneath the hoods. We're gonna just go to the point where that doesn't happen. And that's going to be as low as I can get this hoodie. We'll go ahead and repeat with all of the options. Now, hair is where a large amount of your tries are going to be. So if we have 43,000 faces and tries, if you hide just the hair, you're going to see that gets chunked down by a huge amount. So the hair is going to be where most of your intensity is. And you'll find you can also take it down quite a lot without really losing too much quality. Now when you get to the face, you want to skip the face completely, or else the visemes for talking and animations and things can glitch out terribly or stop working altogether. So do not decimate the face. You'll also find when you start decimating the body, it can cause So I'm not going to go back and change this, but remember when I said if you're not careful when you're drawing the black on the skin mask that you can cause a seam on your hand? That's the seam I was talking about. I'm not going to go back and change. I'm not going to edit. What I was going to say though is when you start decimating the body, you can see gaps start to form typically around joints like the fingers. You just want to go to the point where you don't see any of that, as that would be very obvious when you get into first person and start looking at your hands. Once you've got everything decimated as far as you can comfortably do so, you can come back up to join meshes and click all. That'll get you back to just one body like we had before. And just as a point of reference, I'll go ahead and throw the chart up on the screen right here if I can find it. But as far as tries, I believe 32,000 is the goal you want to have an excellent rating for PC VR, and 4,000 maybe is the rating you want for an excellent quality on the Quest, or maybe it's got to be at least 4,000 to even upload on the Quest. I'll be honest, I'm not really sure. I've not tried Quest at all. Hello, dog. Your last step is to combine your materials into 4 or fewer, depending on how high quality you want the textures to be and how much video memory you want to take up. You can put everything onto 1 or 2 texture atlases and then increase the texture atlas size to like 8K. That takes up a lot more memory and can also cause you to lose optimization, so it's best to have, 3 or 4 regular quality ones. To do that, you click Generate Material List, and that'll show you a list of everything that you have on your body. And I like to group them kind of logically, so if you can find out which texture has your clothes, so shoes, top, bottom, and save Atlas. And the texture quality will dip in Blender. That's just a Blender rendering thing. You don't have to worry about that. It's not going to look like that when you get into Unity or VRChat. Make sure you either click deselect all or come down and manually unclick that if you don't want to include that one in your next selection. Next, I like to grab all of the hair and the eye iris, because there's a neat thing you can do with shaders where you can apply a hue shift, which will make the eye and the hair, change colors. And it's nice to have those grouped together in case you want to do those by themselves. If you would want to hue shift, say, just your eyes to make them turn red for an effect, you'd probably want your eyes to be on their own separate material. But I'm just going to go ahead and say if I wanted to do that, I would have the hair at the same time, just for like a overflowing of power looking situation. A very anime look. And then finally we can get away probably with having we could probably get away with having the body included, but I'll go ahead and make that separate as well. Just to use up the space and ensure that we're not going to max out the amount of room on our texture atlas. So we'll have 3 atlases and we'll leave the body the way it was. And now you are ready to export. So come up here to Export Model. Choose where it's going to go. Ensure that Path Mode becomes Copy, so that it copies the textures into the FBX file. And I'm not exactly sure what this blue box means, but I know you embed. Embed textures only works for copy mode. Yes, you want copy mode for the path and the blue box to be checked, and then go ahead and export FBX. And you're ready to move on to Unity. So go ahead and give this a name. I'm not exactly sure anymore what the blank Unity installer looks like, but with Unity Hub installed, under Installs, you want to find 2022.3.6F1. If you follow the link in the description, it should send you straight to a page where you can find that. But that is the specific version that you want for the newest release of the VRChat SDK. Once you have that version in particular installed, you don't have to worry about making a project here, as you can handle that in the VRChat companion app. In the VRChat companion app, you can go ahead and click Create New Project. You'll be choosing an avatar. If you went with the 2022 version, you want to click Unity 2022. If you went with the other version of Unity that I had installed in the video in the Installs tab, that would be the 2019 avatar project. But that is the quote-unquote older version. It's technically still supported. I believe the 2022 update was a mistake. They didn't mean to do that. But it is out now. Once you have your project created, go ahead and open that. Really quick, while that's opening, if I click this one, we should be able to see the list. The only thing you really need to do your avatars is the base and the avatars option. However, Gesture Manager, AV3 Emulator, Avatar 3.0 Manager, the toolkit for the worlds, if you were wanting to do world stuff, Audio link, I believe, is also for world stuff, but these three in particular make it a lot easier to make gestures and animations to control your wheel when you get to your shortcuts, and we'll see that a little later. But if you wanted to be able to test out all the changes you make without having to launch the game every time, these three will give you controls that you can see inside of Unity instead of going into the game every time. Alright, because I've had other models that I've been working on, I'm going to go ahead and make a new scene so we can keep everything contained within this. I'm also going to make a folder just for this. So take the FBX file that you exported from Blender, just go ahead and drag that right into your assets, and Unity will import it. Once it's imported, go ahead and click it. Under Rig, Animation Type, you want to search Humanoid out of that list and apply. You will probably also need to, or at least want to, come back to Rig and click Configure. Your chest bone will not be mapped by default for some reason. And a lot of the times under Head, it will apply a random piece of hair to your jaw. You'll want to uncheck that as well. And if there happens to be anything else in particular that didn't show up right, you can go ahead and remap that here. Go ahead and take a look at all of those. I know if you have a tail or some other things, it can look a little weird in the mapping. Just remap anything that didn't get mapped to what it should be, and then click Apply, and done. Back in the inspector window for your model, in Materials, go ahead and extract the textures, and I went ahead and made a folder called Textures so we can extract it to that. Go ahead and extract your materials as well. Also made a folder for that. And the materials is where you have your first option. Now, the standard shaders, I believe, are not supported by default in VRChat. The VRChat SDK will come with its own shaders that will work. However, I like to go with the Playable shaders that are also linked in the list. The default download will include a lot of different options. I went ahead and just removed some of the ones I don't use, just to go with the one that I'm going to use. Under rendering preset, you're going to want that to be cut out. And to avoid things like sleeves on t-shirts or anything that you'd normally be able to see from being invisible, you can go to rendering and change culling to off. That way, if the sleeve of your t-shirt or something gets seen inside of, it won't be invisible. You'll also want to go back to your textures and change alpha is transparency to on. And in this particular instance, I noticed that because I did not atlas the skin, it did not provide that texture for the skin, so I will quickly go and grab one of those. Alright, so if you also chose to leave the skin on its own layer, you might have to go back into Blender, change the way your atlases work, re-export. I just found that particular file from a different project and brought it over. If you did have to remap your materials the hard way, the way you would do that is bring your material up, find your texture, drop it into the textures link. And now we have our model loaded right into Unity. You'll go to Add Component on the base object, not the armature of the body. You're going to want to add a VRChat descriptor. You're going to click edit on the view position, as it's probably going to be way above your head, especially if you have a short model. And you'll see a little ball-shaped gizmo. You want to line that up equal with the center of your eyes and roughly just inside your head. The position of that ball is going to be where the first person camera is on your VRChat model. When you're done, you can click return and it saves that spot. Under lip sync, you can click auto detect, and as long as you clicked generate visemes in Blender, all of these should be automatically created and filled in for you. For eye look, for the majority of people playing VRChat, probably not going to have eye look, but we did create that data with Blender. So we'll click enable on eye look, transform left eye bone, search for eye. IL will be the one that the model came with right out of VRoid. Left eye will be the one that Blender calculated, so that's the one you're going to want to go with. Same with right eye. You can also add limits to how far your eyes will go for the eye look. So you can see I've just added some base limits, and you can play with those if you don't quite like them. But like I said, unless you have some sort of eye tracking built into your VR headset, or if you have some weird camera set up for pancake mode, you're probably not going to be seeing the eye tracking anyway. Finally, under eyelids, we have blend shapes. You'll go find the body that's underneath the actual model, and you will drag that in for eyelids mesh. For blink, you have FCL eye close, and then for looking up and looking down, you probably do not have anything. I'm not even sure what you would use there, as I have no form of eye tracking inside of my headset. Last but not least, if you want to do any sort of real customization, you're going to need an animation controller. And I will show you one example of something you can do with animations here. But you're going to want to drag that into your controller right there. Under playable layers, customize. And go ahead and put that under FX as well. You can also create VRChat parameters. And a menu. Add those to your expressions tab so you can add custom gestures and animations, and that's not really going to be in the scope of this tutorial, but you can certainly play with that. Once you're happy with your gestures, however long you want to play with that, come on up to VRChat SDK with your model selected and click Control Panel. The first time you'll need to log into your account. Then you can go to Builder, give it a name, fancy description, any of the content checkboxes. You can capture thumbnail from scene, in which case exactly what your scene camera is looking at is what it'll be. You can also fill the background with a color of your choice. And then scroll down here to the bottom. There will be a lot of warnings, but all of those can just be auto-fixed away. Except for this one. But you can see performance is good. Not excellent because we have too many bones. I left the bones in for the skirt and for the strings on the hoodie and that kind of thing. So that pushed us over the bones limit for excellent. So we're just at good. But good is going to be high enough to be used as a custom fallback. And if there's, by default, you will just see a small handful of options. If you go to settings, show all performance details, you can see exactly how it tracks everything. As you can see, the star says we're going to be excellent for everything except for bones. So if I wanted to go for that excellent rating, I could go back and cut some more bones out and re-import into Unity. But we now have a model that we're good to go with. We can scroll down to the bottom here, build and publish, and it'll be put into your My Avatars section of your VRChat profile. You'd be able to see it both on their website and in the game. And we're done. We have our model taken out of VRoid and uploaded to VRChat. Now, as a bonus, I'm not going to recreate the whole thing from scratch, but I will very quickly walk you through how it works. If your model has a tail and you want to be able to control it in game, I will go ahead and give you a quick overlay on how to set that up. So this model has got a tail. And when I mentioned the gesture manager, the avatar manager, whatever it was called, AV3, those 3 actual add-ons, this is the ability that it gives you in Unity without having to upload into VRChat to test it first. But here, if we go to expressions and tail control, we can freely move our tail up, down, left, right, and anywhere in between. So this will allow you to test things before you have to upload and go into VRChat. You can test it right in Unity. So in order to get this to work, if you have a tail, is you want to create your main menu, give it your option. So in this case we have tail control as a 2-axis puppet, and we have put in 2 parameters, tail blend H, tail blend V. If you wanted to name the arrows that were in that circle, you could also give them names or textures, or you can just leave them blank for just the arrows. You will also have a tail toggle parameter, and that will toggle controlling the tail or letting it run through the idle animations just through physics. The parameters you want to add go in the parameter section. That's your tail toggle, your tail blend H, your tail blend V. Toggle is an int, and the H and V parameters are floats. You will also need to create a new avatar mask. In that avatar mask, Under humanoid, deselect everything, including IK and shadow. Under transform, you want to go on your skeleton, and for some reason it's under hair if it comes out of VRoid. Go on your skeleton and find and check every box that has to do with your tail, and uncheck everything that does not do with the tail in this mask. Open your animation controller, and that'll be in this animator tab. If you do not have the animator tab, you can go Windows, Animation, Animator, and that will bring this up. You're going to want to create a new layer and give it a name. I went with tail. Click the gear, set the weight to 1, and add that tail mask or avatar mask, whatever you named it when you created it. Under parameters, you're also going to want to add tail toggle, tail blend H, tail blend V, and these have to have the same exact name that you gave it in your VRChat parameters. If it's not the exact same, it won't work. In your tail layer, right click, create empty state, and give it a name. I gave mine idle. And make sure entry goes straight to idle. Right click, create state, new blend tree. Add a right click on your idle state, make transition, click the blend tree. On the blend tree, right click, make transition, click the idle tree. For your conditions, for the transition that goes from idle to blend tree, set tail toggle equals 1. And for your transition from blend tree back to idle, tail toggle equals 0. And then double click your blend tree. You're going to want to, inside of your blend tree, you're going to want to add blend type as 2-dimensional freeform directional, and add 5 motion fields to that. For those motion fields, you want idle to be 0, 0, and you're not going to have anything under motion just yet, but you want the first one to be 0, 0. You want the second one to be 0, 1. This next one to be 0, negative 1. Next one down, negative 1, 0. Last one, 1, 0. You're going to want to go to the animations tree, and if you don't have that, Windows, Animation, Animation. That will show you this. When you select your model, it'll probably say you need to create a new clip. You want to create 5 clips. Give them obvious names such as idle, up, down, left or right, or tail if you want to specify specifically the tail, if you're going to be making a lot of animations. For your idle animation, you want to select your tail root, click the record button, and then just change the rotation 1 number, and then change it right back to the way it was, so you have just a 1 keyframe animation. For up, you want to create a base frame, something that'll be the idle state, then go over some amount of time. I chose 10 seconds, doesn't really matter. I believe the closer this is, the faster it will move. But for tail up, for example, make a new keyframe where the tail is just curved up. You've got one where it's curved to the right. You've got one where it's curved to the left. And one where it's curved down. So that will be your 5 animations. Idle, up, down, left, right. And that is what these will be set to in your blend tree. So 0, 0 will be idle. 0, 1 will be up. 0, negative 1 will be down. Left will be negative 1, 0. Right will be 1, 0. And once you have that set up, you have your animations created, blend tree set, the layer set, parameters set, parameter set here, and your way to control it set here. You can either upload your model, or if you have those extras, just click play, and you should be able to freely control your tail. Now you'll notice I did cut out some of the bones when I was optimizing this model, so there is sometimes where it looks like it bends a little weirdly. The more bones you have, the less weird that bend will be. I'm sorry. The more bones you have, the less weird that bend will be. But you'll be able to freely control your tail, or click off and just let the physics of VRChat take over. Also, I mentioned earlier, second bonus, things that will automatically move when you have physics turned on. By default, I don't believe those bones will work like that. You'll have to find the bones in your hierarchy. So for example, this one is the bone for the tail. You're going to want to add new component VRC fizz bone. Any of your bones in the armature that you give a fizz bone to should automatically obey gravity and that kind of thing when you move. So for all your hair, your tail, the skirt, into your t-shirt, whatever extra bones you had, if you add this fizz bone to it, when you move, they will flutter. If you don't want other players to be able to grab anything under grab and pose, you can set those both to false. If you do have a fizz bone on something like your tail, and you wanted to apply the animation so that it can move with your control and move freely when you're not controlling it, you want to make sure is animated is ticked for every fizz bone in your list. If you're animating it with our manual control, you want is animated to be checked. So you can go through each bone, like if you want your ears to flap in the wind, if you have ears, add a fizz bone to it. Etc., etc. So you could add fizz bones to each individual little bone. Keep in mind though that if you add too many fizz bones, you will also drag down your performance as well. So this model went from being excellent to being good because we went over our number of fizz bones. If I go back to the ears, remove those fizz bones, you can see this model has retained excellent because we have not gone over the necessary amount of fizz bones. And this model is a good example, as my first one was not. We have under 32,000 polys, so that's good. Bounding box, probably always going to be good. Skin to mesh renderers, material slots, fizz bones. Regular bones, looks like 73 is excellent quality. 80 or whatever the tutorial model had is just good, etc., etc. So this will give you a little example of how easy it is to hit excellent, or how quickly a little change can take you down to good or lower. But there you go. You now have your model set to work in VRChat. Alright, so I hope that was easy enough to follow. If you did need to stop and pause, that's something you can do. Great. A little bit of arm problem. I think I missed some there. If you need to stop and pause, that's something you can do. It's a great part of having videos. And if you have any questions, let me know. I'll see if I can help answer them. But I feel like if there's any other errors, Google will be better to ask than me. I'm not an expert at this. I've just done it a couple of times. That many times. But yeah, I hope that was easy enough to follow. I hope everybody got their VRoid model loaded right in, and hope to see you. Alright, bye. It's Christmas, but I didn't. Oh damn! It's Christmas, but I didn't have my tree out. There we go. Yeah. No, this is gonna be in the video anyway. See ya.